Well, here we are with another episode of Jibe Talking. I am Ted Mount, and we are broadcasting to you from the Jolly Roger Sailing Club, where pirates come to play. And I always have to use that tagline because people in the club don't like it, so I just like to be, controversial a little bit. Today, we have kind of a different kind of a show. We have with us Andy. What's your last name?
Pallotta.
Okay, what he said. Pallotta. And he is an expert on all the bolts, nuts, screws on the William G. Mather steamship. Is that correct?
Yes, every single one.
So let me just ask you, what is your title there with the boat? Like, what would they say your title is? Everybody has to have a title these days.
Well, at the Great Lakes Science Center, I'm the public programs specialist, so I'm in charge of public-facing programming, like our presentations and demos, and the Mather sort of falls under that. So I train all the people who explain all the nuts and bolts and give tours on the ship. Okay.
Now, I was looking, it looks like this boat went into operation, when did it, early 20s?
Yeah, 1925 was when it was first put into operation.
Now, that's kind of interesting because that would have been just before the Great Depression kind of kicked off, huh?
Yeah, and they kept working through the Great Depression. It was an ore boat, so they needed steel and iron, so the company stayed afloat, pun intended, simply because the need for iron was so great.
Now, what ports would that? First of all, how large is this boat? Why don't you give us some kind of some parameters, dimensions, if you will, so people have an idea what we're talking about? And this was called a steamship. Is that how we call it?
Yeah, the steamship William G. Mather. So the steamship is 618 feet long, 62 feet wide, 32 feet tall.
That's pretty big. Yeah. Now, did it stay only in the Great Lakes?
Yeah, it stayed in the Great Lakes. In fact, it only stayed in Erie, Huron, and Superior. Never went into Ontario, but it wasn't designed for saltwater, so never left the Great Lakes.
Okay, we're now joined by our co-host, Phil Fry. And like I told you earlier, he was on another podcast. We were lucky enough to have the problem of having two in the same day. Now, why don't you go ahead, give us the dimensions of this ship again.
It's 618 feet long, it's 62 feet wide, and it's 32 feet tall.
And you said this was stayed primarily, you said, on Lake Erie, Lake Superior, did you say?
Yeah, and a little bit of Huron, but Huron was sort of a pass-through.
And this moved mainly ore?
Yeah, iron ore. They would carry coal and grain, because if you weren't carrying anything, you weren't making money.
Sure.
So they would load it up with coal or grain to drop off, and then pick up iron ore for the steel mills.
That must have made the grain taste pretty good with all that ore in there, huh?
Yeah.
Of course, back then that didn't matter, did it?
Well, I suppose not.
Well, I don't know. I just thought about it. I guess you don't have to worry about being low on iron or anything, right? No, that's
iron fortified. It was iron fortified grain.
Ore fortified. It wasn't iron yet, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, tell me, what would life have been like on a steamship in the early 20s or in the mid to 20s to 30s? What would it have been like?
So, since the Mather was built as a flagship, it was pretty nice comparatively, even compared to houses of the time. The Mather had running water, heat, and electricity in all of the crew cabins, which was better than most of the houses that people had at the time. They worked 4-hour shifts, so 4 hours on, 8 hours off around the clock. Unless you were in the engine room, then it was 3 hours on, 6 hours off. But Depending on your job, you could either have somebody like a coal passer or a fireman who is working with the boilers, or you could have one of the wheelsmen who was literally just turning the wheel. So everybody had sort of their own jobs. But no matter what, they were all treated with a lot of respect, and they gave all the crew really good meals. So it was tough work. It was really tough work, but they had a lot of sort of comforts built into how the ship was designed.
Now, if they worked, were they pretty much, they weren't obviously on like a 5-day work week, like when they would go out for a sail or a cruise, however you want to call it, how long would they be gone before they would get off again?
So the trip that they took about 3 days to get up. They would go to Superior, Wisconsin, and Duluth, Minnesota. That would take about 3 days, and then that's a day to unload whatever they were carrying, and then they could spend some time in the port city. Then they had 3 days to get back. They would take that trip about 30 times a year. So typically they would stay on May through December, all those months living and working on the ship.
Okay, so they wouldn't, so even on their days off, they wouldn't like go back home or anything?
Yeah, it depends on like if they were between shipments, then they might get some time off and spend time with their families. But usually it was back to back, getting one cargo and then going back, getting another cargo, and just taking a week to do that tour and deliver cargo.
Then, now when you say crew, how many crew would be on the ship?
In 1925, it was around 38. But then by 1980, they did a lot of automation with the boilers and various other pieces of technology. And so you got down to about 29 people running the ship in 1980.
So was it always steam powered, or did it switch away from that then?
It was always steam. They switched the fuel in 1953. So from 1925 to 1953, it was coal. And then in 1953, they redid the boiler to run on number 6 fuel oil. And they changed the engine and made the ship a little more powerful. And it could go a little faster. So they could get more cargo faster. But yeah, so it ran on steam the entire lifetime. But up until 1953, it was coal, and from then on, it was oil.
So what would this cruising speed of a ship like that be? Well, of course, it'd probably be different, empty or full, I'm sure, huh?
Yeah. Average speed was 12 miles an hour when it was running on coal, and then once they repowered, the cruising speed was around 15 miles an hour.
Oh, that's substantial.
Yeah.
Substantial increase. Now, was that empty or was that full or empty? That's still top speed.
It was top speed when it was full, was 15 miles an hour.
Okay. And so the numbers of crew went down. Now, what year was this taken out of service?
It was 1980.
1980, exactly. And then the museum acquired it. How long? When?
The museum, we acquired it in 2005.
Okay.
And so there's a timeline there of, in 1980, the boat was retired. The Great Lakes Historical Society acquired it by around 1987, and they started working on turning it into a museum. And then in 1991, it opened as a museum. And then 1995, Harbor Heritage took over operations of it. And in 2005, it was moved and merged with the Science Center. That all was finished up by 2006.
And has Gordon Lightfoot ever written a song about this boat?
Oh, that's a great.
Yeah.
There's no rec.
There's no record of it.
Okay.
We do have an exhibit about the Edmund Fitzgerald, and when people come aboard, we get 3 different questions that are the most common. The most common question is this the Titanic? And, of course, the answer is yes. Second question is this the Edmund Fitzgerald? And the answer is yes. Obviously, it's not. No, we just like to give people a little joke, but it's completely separate from those. And then the third question is, can we take a spin out to Canada with this?
Do you do that? Should we come up and take a cruise? Do we go to Canada?
We can't. So it's anchored for one thing, but there's
you can pull the anchor up, can't you?
Yeah, we can pull the anchor up. But it is floating, which is really awesome. But it's there's a door cut into one of the ballast tanks, which isn't great. And then there's concrete in the ballast tanks. The engine's broken. The furnace is broken.
Might be slow, a little slower than that 15 miles an hour then.
Yeah, it would probably be
like 0?
Like 1 mile every 5 weeks or something like that.
Oh,
like
wow.
it wouldn't be very.
That would be
efficient.
like on the freeway in California.
Was there ever a point in time, and I somehow in distant memory I've heard this, that you could book a commercial passage on a lake freighter? Was that ever the case?
You could be a passenger. The company that owned the Mather, Cleveland Cliffs, they didn't sell tickets. Like you couldn't buy a ticket to take a trip on a ship like the Mather, but you could be invited on board as a guest. You could draw like a raffle prize and win a prize to take a trip on the Mather. So it has guest rooms for 10 to 12 guests that could take trips during the sunny summer season.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, probably not great in November.
No.
Especially on Lake Superior.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to be out there.
No.
No, not in Lake Superior. So that's interesting. Do people really think that's the Edmund Fitzgerald, or is that just a joke?
I don't know. I think it's a joke.
You never know,
but
though.
Sometimes you never know. Sometimes we get like really little kids, and the only big boat they've ever heard of is the Titanic. So
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree.
But yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why people ask if it's the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Now, how many? I know you said it went into operation. You said in 25. Is that when it? Okay. How long did it take to build it? Build a big ship like that?
It took about a year.
Oh, not as long as I would think.
Yeah, they put it together in Michigan, and it's all riveted plate. And they just had a huge team. It cost $1 million to build it, 1925 money, and just riveted plate. So they just had a bunch of, just a huge team of people just throwing it together very quickly.
So in 1920s, $1 million, obviously substantially more than that today's dollars. What would be, how many years would the ship have to be in operation for it to break even?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a good question. I'm not sure of the exchange rate of the cargo, but the fact that it was taking 30 trips a year, my educated guess, my hypothesis, use a science word, is that it would break even very, very quickly. The company had a fleet of ships, and they were constantly running them on the Great Lakes, and so they were probably raking in the cash on this cargo. I don't suspect it would take too long to break even on that investment.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes my history's not good, but the Carnegies, they were into steel, right?
Yeah.
Would they have any money funded something like this, or not really?
So, I think the Cleveland Cliffs Iron Company was separate from them. William G. Mather was the son of the guy who founded the company, and he was their president for a while. So it was named after him simply because he was one of the highest ranking people. And the company was separate from Carnegie and his investments.
Okay. Now, how many, like a boat this big, how many screws would it have?
Thousands.
No, I meant the propellers.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thousands of propellers. Sorry.
I thought,
sorry.
man, that's a crazy ship.
Oh, yeah, tiny little propellers. One propeller.
One
Single
propeller.
screw.
How big? I mean, how much did it weigh?
It weighs about 18,000 pounds, and it's 15 feet wide.
Is that still below the waterline, or has that been recovered and somewhere in the museum?
It's in cement. Oh, no.
So since the ship is sort of riding really, really high now, and half of the propeller is out of the water, so when you visit it, you exit and you get to see the propeller, half of it peeking up out of the water.
So what kind of material is that propeller made out of? What kind of metal?
It is pretty much solid steel and bronze. Let me actually look up. I have I know it's in my data.
That's all right. I just was curious. I know like those, like a lot of, you see a lot of brass props, but I was gonna say
It's not
nothing that
balsa
big.
wood. I can tell you that. It's not made out of balsa.
Maybe birch. You never know. I mean, you know what the Carnegies did. It's probably steel. They probably made their own prop. Yeah, that's okay. That's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
I just was curious. I was just curious. So, well, now that you kind of broached the subject, how many actual screws or rivets are in it? You brought that up.
Yeah, now we need to know.
There are exactly 1,920,000.
No way.
No,
I was gonna buy it. Keep going. That's a lot of
Who's going to
rivets.
count them and prove you wrong?
Well,
Yeah, no one's going to count them and prove you wrong.
Yeah. Now, a ship like this, how much draft does that need?
about 20, 22. It depends on the season.
What do you say?
20, 22,
20
22.
20 to 22 feet? Oh, that limits a lot. That limits a lot of areas you can operate in.
Well, that's why there's a shipping channel.
I knew that.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah. What channel is it?
It's the Toledo
11?
shipping channel.
Oh, I thought you meant on TV.
No,
No. It's not like that kind of channel. Okay, all right. So then they had the channel like going up to Detroit. It would have to go up to Detroit River. Well, is that deep? How deep is the Detroit River? Do you know, Phil?
I have no idea how deep it is, but I know there are freighters that
Yeah, there
traverse
are.
it all the time.
Yeah, there are.
That's the only way up into Huron,
Yeah.
and then from there into Superior.
Yeah.
I think the primary problem is in the Western Basin that's so shallow. I think that's where you've got to really be careful about staying in the channel.
Would that ship have ever come to Toledo? Because I know we do a lot of ore. We used to do a lot of ore out of Toledo.
Yeah, I mean, they would typically work in Cleveland for the ore, but any other cargo, they would go Toledo, Ashtabula, anywhere that they could get another cargo to bring up north.
So they probably. Well, we also have a lot of grain here, so they might have gotten some of that ore laden grain that we use for.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably why we gets sick around. No, I'm just kidding about that. But so that's interesting. So if I were going to come to see this, is this ship open year round?
It is not open year round. It opens in May.
Okay.
So the season is May through October. And it's weekends only in May, and then in June we open it up every day except Mondays. And then in October we close it down again, so it's just weekends in October. But yeah, if you want to see it, you have to come in May through October.
Okay. Now, where what address is this actually located? Like somebody, like one of the three people that listen to the show say, I'd like to go see that steamship. Give them the address. Where's it at?
We're at 601 Erie Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. And now is the other museum right there? Like this is attached to? Tell them the name of the museum. This is affiliated with.
Great Lakes Science Center is the main museum, and the Mather is right outside on the harbor. So
okay.
It's like maybe 30 feet away from the museum.
Now, how much does it cost to see this thing?
It's only about $10.
Oh, that's pretty affordable.
Yeah, and then we have discounts for if you're a member of the Science Center.
Okay.
And, senior discounts, better discounts.
How about if you're old? Do they have any like senior discounts?
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
There you go.
Have you ever thought about doing ghost tours on board this ship?
Oh, that's a great question.
So, interestingly enough, we used to do haunted Mather tours.
Really? Okay.
You don't need to tell them that story. We were out in Put-in-Bay one time for a sailing week, and we were assisting the young man there trying to sell ghost tours. He was not happy that we were helping him, but we were just waiting on the water taxi, so we were just having some fun. But so then we always ask about ghost tours. So do you do something for Halloween then? Is that what you're saying?
We used to. There's a lot of like we want to bring them back, but we just have to bring them back in the right way. So we just have to like plan it out. We haven't done them in years. We still have all the decorations, but it's just a matter of like planning them out.
I don't think I would use those pumpkins you've been saving though. They might be kind of rotted. I don't know.
No.
It could be. Could become like a gourd then, don't they? When they dry up. Well, that's beyond our abilities. Do you have any questions, Phil?
No, I think you've done a good job.
I appreciate very much you coming on with us today. I myself, I think I'm going to venture over there here in the spring. I would like to see the ship and go for a little tour. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. I see online you have something called a hard hat tour. What is that?
Wow. All right, so we have the standard self-guided tour.
That's the $10 job.
That's the $10. All
right.
But on weekends in the summer, we offer hard hat tours where you get to go into all the areas that are normally blocked off. So places like the pump deck of the engine room, you get to go inside the stack casing and see the smokestack. You get to go into a place called the dark hold where the bow thruster used to be. So it's a hard hat tour because you have to wear hard hat and safety goggles. There's low-hanging pipes. There's all of the bowels of the ship and all the pipes and machinery that people don't normally get to see.
But can we blow the horn, or is that an extra fee?
You can ring the bell.
Well, does that come with the hard hat tour, or do we have to pay more for that?
That's complimentary. Complimentary ringing of the bell.
I might have to do that. As you can tell here at the club today, we are having another function, and somebody's just knocked over some chairs. So it sounds like a bowling alley right now. I think it's my sister, but I wouldn't want to say that online. But anyways.
Yeah, too late. It's out there.
Oh, it is out there in the universe.
It's out there in the universe.
Well, thank you very much for coming on with us. We will send you a link for this so you can listen, and I look forward to coming up there this summer.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'll just plug the Science Center, greatscience.com.
You plug whatever you want. Here you go.
Yeah. If you're interested in the Mather, greatscience.com is where you can buy tickets. We start posting those hard hat tours starting in late May.
Okay.
So you'll be able to get in and get your reservation on those.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll talk to you later then.
Absolutely.